Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to dive into a multi-billion-dollar copper asset that, of course, is brought to us by Oroco Resources. And we're going to kind of break down the value proposition here, the updates as we head toward pre-feasibility, and so much more with Ian Graham, the president, joining as always. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Kyle. Good to be back.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And I think people are really missing the opportunity here. I mean, you guys are eyeing down the pre-feasibility study coming up. We'll discuss on this multi-billion-dollar copper asset that is Santo Tomas. But I wouldn't mind rolling back a bit because Mexico is not allowing stake on new grounds. And you were able to take option in a Vinea property near Santo Tomas, which is another massive porphyry opportunity. But firstly, maybe tell us kind of these properties and kind of how they kind of stack up against other copper assets that exist in Mexico, just so people get the idea, the scope and scale of these.
Sure. We're located in northwest Mexico, which is part of a belt of porphyries developed, the so-called Laramide porphyry coppers. And these extend from the southwest US through the northwest of Mexico. There are some absolute giants among them, and we at Santo Tomas have a well-sized porphyry copper. These things run into the billions of tons of resource. And at Santo Tomas, we sit a little south of a known porphyry called Bahuarachi that has never been exploited. We also believe that Vinea is another porphyry copper that is located to the south of Santo Tomas. So sometimes tonnages are aggregated in a single deposit. Sometimes the massive tonnage is split among a couple or three deposits along a volcanic trend. So we expect that at Santo Tomas, we're looking at a trend, perhaps comprising three large porphyries, which would be Santo Tomas, Bahuarachi, and potentially Vinea. So hoping that the target at Vinea holds the potential for sure to run to a billion or billions of tons of mineralized material, and that's the target.
Yeah, and I really want to reiterate billions of tons here. We're not talking about anything to the small scale. And with geopolitics affecting the copper price, I think it's also interesting because everything you guys have done has been so conservative in value grades. I know gold, a lot of people are paying attention to silver, other assets in the commodity space that have been rallying, and a lot of projects are recognizing some of that value. But I still feel like copper is largely under recognized. You guys are trading at 1/20th of your market cap versus your net present value at what was it, 1.5 billion post-tax and pre-tax 2.64 billion. And this was based off what, like a $4 copper price. And even with the recent correction when
Correct.
it comes to Trump geopolitics, you're still not even touching that $4 copper price. Like the undervaluation here, I think, as you guys kind of build out and de-risk these assets, do you want to speak to this just a little bit?
Yeah, sure. When you do economic modeling on a potential project, you tend to take conservative long run pricing. And so our $4 estimate when we did that in the middle of last year was reasonable, but definitely not bullish. And I think what's playing out in the markets, and we expect will continue to play out, will continue to suggest that our long run choice of price in the middle of 2024 was conservative but reasonable in the sense that most projects tend to make an estimate that is not overly bullish. There's a degree of conservatism that it is appropriate to build in. But certainly, for the most part, when these long run prices are selected, they turn out to be a little conservative over the long run, which is correct. But we certainly, I think, were conservative across our price selection. $1,900 for gold, that's $1,900 per ounce. We used $24 an ounce for silver, and we used $15 for molybdenum. So I don't think any of those were outrageous to the upside and were likely a tad conservative.
Yeah, and kind of leading up to what we should be focusing on. I mean, going from Plan Mexico, getting government involvement. I mean, you're slowly checking all these boxes to kind of build this asset out for perhaps being acquired and actually bringing it into production in that sense. But what do you think investors should be focusing on with these major milestones ahead for pre-feasibility? Maybe just break it down for us.
Sure. I mean, fundamentally, we've seen a pivot for Oroco and Santo Tomas with the government support we've received. And one of the ways we've signaled our appreciation of that back to the government is the option on Vinea. We now believe that we can develop porphyry coppers in northwest Sinaloa and Northwest Mexico, the endorsement and the addition to a formal Plan Mexico slash Plan Sinaloa foreign direct investment initiative overseen from the very top. It is the project that is endorsed by the president herself, and in fact is to some degree her brainchild. So we intend to play into that to ensure that we develop on a steady but reasonably aggressive timescale in order to essentially earn the privilege that we've been offered in being included with Plan Mexico. So I think fundamentally this project does not have any particular headwinds that will come from the permitting regime. Clearly, we have to step through all the permitting requirements of a conventional mining project. And there are a number of those, and they're sequential, and they require things like environmental studies, baseline studies, and obviously all the way through to feasibility studies that will describe the final development project. So there are no shortcuts on any of that. But what we now have been told and has been indicated by the inclusion of the project into Plan Mexico is that it's full steam ahead. And we're being asked how quickly we can step through the PFS and the subsequent steps that would take this project to mining.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to pass it off to the viewers. We're going to come back and definitely explore this much further as we head toward that pre-feasibility. A lot of milestones ahead here heading into the fall and something to definitely pay attention to. So consider subscribing for those updates. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. But on that, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.